It's the Brad and John Show.
October 7th is the date. It's a Tuesday, so happy it's Tuesday. This is the B block, the Bravo block, which means we start it right around 7:20 or so. John, and how do we start the show? How do we start the Brad and John Show? I mean, as far as a B block is concerned.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It is, and we can't do it until the ladies sing twice because it's in their union contract. Ladies,
It's time for Brad's Top.
and we start off with,
It's number 3.
here's my question to you, John, and I mean this sincerely. Okay, it's interesting because of the fact there's a couple of podcasts that keeps popping up now, unfortunately, due to Charlie Kirk is gone, various interviews he's done. He was on the Whatever podcast. John, are you familiar with the Whatever podcast?
Yeah. It's a bunch of, if I'm thinking of it correctly, it's a bunch of guys. It's very much what the English would call like a lad program. Like it's a podcast for guys, and they talk a lot about dating, don't they?
Right, but typically they sit around a table, and it's almost always women. They're always like, prostitutes,
Hot women,
lots of cleavage showing and stuff like that. Okay, and the one that keeps popping up is Charlie Kirk was on there, and typically the women are sitting around the table are, like I say, lots of cleavage, very attractive women, and they're always OnlyFans people and strippers and sex workers and things like that. Okay, but. And this is the question for you, and it sounds like you're not super familiar with this. I thought you'd be more familiar with this podcast.
No, I have 24 hours a day, and I'm not giving any of it to the Whatever podcast.
They show one shot with the guy who's the head moderator. He's the head dude. I don't even know his name. And there's always a woman sitting behind him in one of those German World War II helmets with the spike on the top. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't I haven't noticed that. No.
Well, I thought you knew what that was about. Why is there a lady? And almost every one of the podcasts, if you watch it and they shoot it with multi-cameras, there's one shot where the moderator, I don't know what his name is, he's sitting in front of the microphone, and behind him there sits a young lady with this German helmet with the big spike on the top. And then she just sits there, and she's not in part of the podcast. She's not talking or anything like that. And once again, the reason I mention this is because Charlie Kirk did the show a couple times, and now these are in hot rotations on YouTube with the algorithm and stuff like that. I thought you might knew who the lady was.
No. Have you asked ChatGPT about it?
I did not. I should ask ChatGPT about that. But that's okay. That's my strange question. Okay, you ready for number 2?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's time for Brad's number 2. It's time for Brad's number 2.
On the scale of intelligence and smartness, John is way up there on the top. I'm way down at the bottom, okay?
Not true, but thank you.
Okay, John has a back door into the Post-Dispatch, which I do not. And quite honestly, I should be, as a journalism person, I should spend my money and just subscribe to the Post-Dispatch, but I don't. But I typically look at the front page and see the headlines on there. Explain this to me. There was a headline on the Post yesterday about the county council is looking for a new place to meet because they have to find a new place. They're going to rent a place to meet for the county council. John, can you explain that to me?
No, I did not read the story, but I'm guessing, just speculating here, does the county council say that their chambers aren't big enough? Or what's their issue?
I didn't read the story. That's why I thought you might know. It was on the front page of the Post yesterday.
Yeah, I did see the headline, and as you know, Brad, I don't link to any stories about St. Louis County government,
right.
So I don't know. I'm not certain. I wonder if any other news outlets have covered it, like KSDK or KMOX or something like that. You know?
Well, the reason I brought it up, because I thought to myself, this is another deal. And I thought this was a backdoor effort by your friend and mine, as Jane Duker calls him, Scam Page. You ever see what she says? She always refers.
I have seen her say that, yeah.
Right? She refers to him as Scam Page. He's got this thing. He's still pushing. We need a new county office building. Need a new county executive office building. I'm going like, okay, here we go again. You get these guys in, and you know what? I'm going to criticize Dan Borgmeyer. Dan, I think and now they're constructing it, so the barn, the horse is already out of the barn. All these mayors get in and they want a new Taj Mahal City Hall. In St. Charles County, We're going to have the new fancy schmancy St. Charles City Hall. We've already got the new fancy schmancy Cottleville City Hall. The old Cottleville City Hall was in a double wide, believe it or not. One double wide for the police department, one double wide for the government. Same thing with St. Peter's, same thing with Wentzville, same thing with Darden Prairie. They all have to have their fancy schmancy place. I don't get it.
It's abysmal. And Brad, I do have it pulled up now.
Okay.
In a paywall-free version. Can I hit the high points of it?
Yeah. I'd appreciate it.
St. Louis County is shopping for a new place to hold its county council meetings as a deadline nears to bring the county's current headquarters up to fire code or vacate the building. Brad, that's a pretty good reason to leave. That old shoddy building is not up to fire code. Now, this piece is brought to us by Kelsey Landis, and she continues, county officials say there is no time to build a new administrative headquarters or to clean up asbestos in it and install fire sprinklers before the 2028 deadline. Brad, you can't do all that stuff in 2 years. So council members and County Executive Sam Page's administration have started searching for a place to lease in Clayton until they can find a permanent home. Finding a temporary place for government meetings is just the first step. In the coming years, the county will have to address several sticky problems with its 54-year-old downtown Clayton headquarters. God, that's almost as old as Brad. Including the need to relocate roughly 600 employees, offices, and customer services until a permanent solution is found. So that's the beginning of the piece.
John, this is, on the scale of BS, this is off the BS scale.
Would you say this is kabuki?
It's so, once again, and I get tired of people saying that. You go to, people talk about in Europe. Well, in Europe, well, look at the City Hall of City St. Louis. How old's the City Hall? It dates back to the 1800s, doesn't it? Something like that?
Yeah, pretty much so.
Okay, don't we have these buildings in D.C.? Isn't the Capitol building like 180 years old? Isn't the White House?
You can see where the Brits came and tried to burn it down.
Right,
That's how old it is.
Exactly. And we've got the White House, which is like a super old building. Why? And the crazy thing about this is the asbestos steel. I'm not Mr. Construction expert, but if you talk to people who are in the know about this, you know what the current situation with asbestos is? You know what the current situation is as far as they tell you what to do with it?
They tell you to burn it or bury it.
They tell you to do nothing because of the fact.
Like don't touch it, don't agitate it.
Right. So the idea being is if you've got asbestos in the building, as long as you're not disturbing it and essentially making the fibers become airborne, which is what causes cancer, people breathe those in. As long as you've got it in the building, and to a certain extent, I believe they did this with the airport, because if you go into the old terminal, which is soon to be demolished, but if you go into the old terminal at Lambert, the entire ceiling is asbestos. And what they did was they coated it with some kind of, epoxy or something like that, which essentially seals the asbestos in, and it's no big deal. So the problem is if they tear down the county building, then it becomes a big deal. And the sprinkler system, I hate to say this, one of our good clients is Central County Fire Protection District. They're over on Westplex.
John Schneider.
Chief John Schneider. Okay, there have been a movement around the country, and this happened, I know this personally because this involved me with the radio station in Washington where we were there. They were trying to put through a new ordinance that stated that every new building, including residences, had to have a sprinkler system installed. Not for your lawn, but for fire suppression things. And the interesting part of the story is I read an industry report from the insurance industry that said the insurance industry pays out more in damages for buildings that have had the fire sprinkler system go off than buildings that have been burnt without the fire sprinkler system. Get what I'm saying, John?
Really? So because water is destructive.
Yes. If let's say there's a small fire in an office, let's say in St. Louis County office complex down there in Clayton. Let's say there's a trash can fire. Somebody drops a cigarette. They're not supposed to be smoking, but they're not supposed to be having sex in the offices either. But they do it. But somebody drops a cigarette into a trash can, and the trash can starts to burn. And let's say there was a fire suppression system, and the sprinkler head went off, and it the water went everywhere. Let's say that was on the 4th floor. That would go from the 4th floor down to the 3rd floor, down to the 2nd floor, down to the 1st floor, and essentially a $10,000 fire damage claim turns into a $2 million water mitigation claim, because then you got to bring in the guys, you got to bring in the Serpro guys.
And then you have to have people evaluate structural damage.
Right, and then you got to make sure there's not mold growth. You have to have the people come in and check the air and stuff like that. So the point being is the fire code, and it's just like a lot of these things in the building code, it gets to the point where it gets more complicated, and really what it comes down to is it's sort of like the EPA, okay? And the crazy part of this is, who started the EPA? You know this story,
Dick
John?
Nixon. We've discussed it many times on the show.
Right.
Richard Nixon.
So the idea being is, once you get the bureaucrats in there, they go, well, we've got this law. We have to make it better, and we have to make it better and better and better and better and better and better and better. And then pretty soon it's to the point where you can't do anything. You can't. It's like me with my transmitter site down there at Crabville. I can't do anything because I have to get permission from the EPA and from the Coast Guard and from the Army Corps of Engineers and from Warren County and from the Department of Conservation and blah, blah, blah. And I go, hey, look, I just want to put my building back up that got knocked down in the flood of '93. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't do that. There's laws against that.
That breaks a lot of rules.
Okay.
I'm surprised that you're not supposed to disturb asbestos. I'm working on a contract basis with a guy that gave me a leaf blower, and he told me to go into all these buildings with asbestos. He said he looked like his name was Terry K something. He told me his name was just Mikey Mesothelioma. And he goes, you know my law firm, Mikey Mesothelioma. Oh, wait. And then he tried to disguise his voice. But yeah, so I go into buildings with a leaf blower, and I just kind of blow up at the, pardon the expression, up at the ceiling tiles, And he's a big fat guy with a beard, and I swear like I've seen Mikey Mesothelioma on TV before.
Does he have a dog now with him? Was it the deal too?
I think that's his gimmick, yeah.
Okay. Ready for number one?
Yeah, let's do it.
And now, Big Finish, Brad's number 1.
My old journalism professor, Dr. Camille Winter, would have a field day with this. Are you familiar with the Barry Weiss or Barry Weiss, depending upon who you talk to, the story with her being bought out by CBS? Do you know this crazy, weird story?
No. When did she sell out?
This is unbelievable story. Okay, little bit of background. Barry Weiss, depending upon who you talk to. Some people call her Barry, some people call her Barry. She was a reporter, columnist for the New York Times. This was her dream job. She worked herself up through the journalism field and got the dream job. And then when she got there, she realized it was a scam, that the place was just filled with a bunch of liberals. And quite honestly, I think she sort of identifies with more being a liberal herself, but she felt that there was not real journalism being practiced. It was just all, okay, we're going to push this narrative, push this narrative, push this narrative. She got into a little bit of a skirmish with some of the other reporters, and she ultimately quit. She started a newsletter, I can't remember what the name of the newsletter is, which essentially morphed into the Free Press. Right, John? You probably read the Free Press before.
Yeah, I follow them on X.
Okay. The new owner of CBS, the new head dude, essentially has said, you know what? I like what Barry Weiss is standing for. So we're just going to buy her whole publication, and we're going to make her the head of the CBS News department. Did you know about this?
No, I hadn't. When did this happen?
Oh, like in the last couple of days. It's been rumored for a couple of weeks, but apparently yesterday, because the headlines were everywhere, it became official yesterday. They paid her, I think, $170 million for a newspaper, or for her website. Now, keep in mind, she only started in 2022. She quit in 20.
I was going to say it's very recent.
Oh, yeah, she quit in 2020. She started the newsletter like in 2021. It morphed into the Free Press in 2022. And she is going to be the new head of CBS. And she put out a memo yesterday outlining the 10 things that, and what's sad about this is you go like, okay, why would she have to state those 10 things?
Aren't they already doing those things?
Well, the problem is they're not. They're not. As a matter of fact, the interesting part of here, I'll just read a couple of them. And this was the top 10 list. This was yesterday. CBS News staffers received new marching orders urged to treat Democrats and Republicans equally. And the story goes on to talk about how she was named editor-in-chief of CBS News on Monday. Just happened yesterday. The Free Press, $150 million, was acquired by Paramount for $150 million. Her first member of the staff is that she wants Democrats and Republicans held account equally. Now, top 10 list. Number one, journalism that reports on the world as it actually is. we have to state that? I mean, it's to the point.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But you know what? That's the difference between, I think a lot of folks in the media would say, well, let's talk about the way things should be. Not the way they are now.
Exactly. They're not reporters. They're essentially becoming advocates for a certain ideology or standpoint or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
exactly. They feel like that's their responsibility.
Right. Number 2, journalism that is fair, fearless, and factual. Okay? Once again, we have to state that. Number 3, journalism that respects our audience enough to tell the truth plainly wherever it leads. Number 4, journalism that makes sense of a noisy, confusing world. Number 5, journalism that explains things clearly without pretension or jargon. 6, journalism that holds both American political parties to equal scrutiny. 7, journalism that embraces a wide spectrum of views and voices so that the audience can contend with the best arguments on all sides of a debate. 8, journalism that rushes toward the most interesting and important stories regardless of their unpopularity. 9, journalism that uses all the tools of the digital era, which I think is very important. And number 10, journalism that understands that the best way to serve America is to endeavor to present the public with the facts first and foremost. John, don't you think that's the way it should always been running?
I think so, but maybe that's the point of what she's doing, is underscoring the fact these are all common sense. But a place like CBS News has gotten way away from that.
Well,
Like when you're editing a Kamala Harris video to make her look better, you're clearly taking sides.
John, you know there's probably 90% of the CBS journalism people, the CBS News department, who when they got this memo yesterday said NFW. You know what NFW stands for?
No fudge way.
Yes. They're just like, hey, we don't care what she says. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing, which is
Yeah, and they'll be kind to her face and they'll compliment her, and then they're going to keep doing whatever they, because I bet some of them will be like, well, she can't stop me. I'll get fired, and then I'll say I was fired by the right-wing head of CBS News.
right. And then they'll file for a discrimination claim or something like that.
Yeah.
And they'll get $gazillion. It's going to be interesting because I have to tell you, I think the resentment for her now is going to be times 10 because she was somewhat of a whistleblower when she was at the New York Times. And it's interesting because I heard a couple people, I searched around and found some interesting insights in a couple different podcasts that came up yesterday. And people are comparing her to our buddy Yuri Berliner, who was the NPR guy who came out. As a matter of fact, it's interesting because of the fact that, remember, where was Yuri Berliner's narrative? Where was his article that blew the lid off of NPR? Where
was it in the Free Press?
Yes, it was in the Free Press. So the idea being is
There's a line of continuity. There's a thread there.
yes, and to me, it's to the point where, John, we're running a little late. Can I tell you my crazy story of, C Block is the crazy weird story. Can I tell you?
Yeah, we're going to, in C Block, we're doing the life of a political showgirl with Kara Spencer. But go ahead and tell your story, Brad.
Okay, we are going to do that in C Block?
Yeah, we mentioned it yesterday, and it's been all over social media. Yep.
Okay, can I ask you one favor on this?
Sure.
Instead of scoring me at the end, will you score me as we go through each one?
No, we'll just do it the way we did it last time, but we'll go quickly. We'll go more quickly.
But see, people, here's the problem, John, and let me give you from a radio perspective.
Okay, we'll do it that way, Brad. It's 7:42, and because I've promoted this, people will be tuning in 3 minutes. Go
Okay,
ahead.
let's say somebody's driving down the road and they punch the radio in 5 minutes into the show, and they'll go like, okay, what's going on
Gotta
here?
appreciate it and all your radio wisdom, and let's do it. Go ahead and tell your story, and then we'll come back at 7:45.
I'll just tell it later. Okay.